Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Ryan J. Cox. I'm the chair of Arts and Education in the University Studies Department at Keyano College. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first installment of our renewed lecture series. Yes. I'm not working. If anyone has worked, if any of you work for this insurance company, let's just be clear on that part. But yes, this is. I'm so glad that the lecture series is back. I think that this is a great testament to what happens when you bring the college into the community. This is a wonderful collaboration between ourselves and the Wood Buffalo Regional Library. And it's something I'm going to take credit for because I wrote an email that said yes, and that we would do this, and then promptly went on leave. I didn't intend it that way, but if you come to each one, at the very end, I'll tell you why. The very end of the series, I'll do that. But I also get, it's my very esteemed honor to introduce tonight's speaker, who will be presenting their talk. I'm looking up there, it's in front of me. They Didn't Ruin Your Childhood: What Cartoon Reboots Teach Us About Language. Amanda Cox is Amanda Dafoe.
Not the married name, the professional name.
You know, I was practicing and saying it right. Amanda Dafoe is an instructor in the business department, where she teaches communications. She also is teaching in university studies, where she's teaching speech and what's that course? Pop culture, which is apropos of tonight's talk. Amanda has a BA from McMaster University in Ontario in English and a master's from the University of Windsor, also in English. Her undergraduate or her research area until relatively recently has been medieval literature and fairy tales. She is my go-to source on Julian of Norwich and Hildegard of Bingen. That was a joke that would laugh for maybe 3 of you, so good. Recently, her research has been kind of aiming more towards language, as that's what she teaches. She's good at that. So I am wonderfully pleased to introduce Amanda.
Thank you, baby. You just did the most speaking you've done. It was very exciting. I'm not emotional about my husband doing that much talking. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first in the Keyano lecture series. As Ryan said, we are thrilled to be back doing this, and particularly doing it at the library. And I think we've had enough of that kind of stuff. So let's talk about cartoons. I have strong opinions about them, and I bet some of you do too. So our agenda for tonight includes continuations, sequels, and reboots. New voices, old faces. Why do they sound right but speak wrong? Jinkies and zoinks are not in the dictionary, and that is true, and I have very strong opinions about that. They didn't make it for you, and then of course we will take time for questions and cookies, aka Scooby Snacks for all. So let's get going, shall we? Come on. So the first thing we need to do is establish what reboots are. First and foremost, we have to define the difference between continuations, sequels, and reboots, because there is slight variation between all of them. I will be chipping on that cord at some point tonight when I wander. Continuation is kind of what we see with Scooby-Doo, for the most part. We have breaks in it, it gets canceled, it gets renewed, but in theory, each time, we still have our Mystery Incorporated group. It's still our lovely Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne, Velma, and Fred. Can't forget Fred. We should, but we don't. Look, the only thing he brings to the party is a sassy ascot. And a little bit more. We'll talk about that later, though. Importantly, we also have sequels. That is a whole different thing because that is a continuation of the world. Think of cartoons where they start in elementary school and then we follow them later in a sequel to high school. What we care about tonight, though, is the reboot. That is a show that ended. It's done. We buy the merch at Hot Topic, but otherwise we completely forget about it until they decide to bring it back. And in theory, we're bringing it back the same. But as we know from every horror movie ever, when you bring it back to life, you're not bringing back the same thing, are you? It never comes back the same. Never, ever. So why do some continuations, sequels, reboots work and some don't? Some are good. My Little Pony reboot. Friendship is magic, slaps. The original My Little Pony, God bless it, I loved it in the 80s because I was a child. Friendship is magic is better. Miss Frizzle, the Magic School Bus reboot. It's perfectly fine. That's what I got for that one. Muppet Babies, once again, perfectly fine. Others don't work. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have to understand the intent behind cartoon reboots before we can kind of get into it. So first off, the obvious intent is nostalgia. Parents who watched it as their teens, now when there's a reboot, oh, I can sit the kid in front of it. We can bond over these characters I grew up loving. Now you will love them too because I say so, because I'm not watching Teletubbies ever again. So there's nostalgia, and let's be real, money. Reboots happen because companies like to make money, and it's a built-in audience. And also because they think potentially there's something interesting there. Some stories are left unfinished, and maybe if we reboot them, we can begin anew, get something new. And then there's also what we have to call the gritty reboot. The ones where they come back and it was kids' property, but now we're going to make it serious and dark because you're an adult and you're going to want these characters to be grim, and now we're going to have the Scooby Gang murdering the people or something like that. A good example of this and why it failed spectacularly is the show Velma. There was actually a show focused on Velma that came out for 2 seasons, and it was hated. I'm not talking about it a lot in this talk because it wasn't meant for kids. We're focusing on reboots that are in theory of children's cartoons that stayed for it. Velma existed as then something for adults, and it fails because no one wants that beyond anything else. We don't want to see the Scooby Gang be gritty. We want to see them be scared and then have you dang meddling kids. We want a nice little capitalism is evil in 22 minutes and everyone gets a treat and we all move on. What is Scooby-Doo but telling us capitalism is evil? It is always the real estate person. It is always the person inheriting the money or the building that did the crime, without fail. Capitalism is evil. Don't tell my boss I said that. Sometimes, though, for the reboots, the objections are obvious. racism. A good example is when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got rebooted, April became an African-American woman, and then all of a sudden it was my childhood is ruined, and the answer was just not about language, not about nostalgia, anything like that. It was just sometimes people suck. So sometimes the objections to these cartoons are really that surface level. Think of Spider-Man reboot in the movies when it was Zendaya as MJ, and people were like, it's because she's not a redhead. How about you have a meeting with God and think about your opinions? Because she's awesome. So what we're focusing today is on the reboot, not continuations or sequels. Now, my next question is, how seriously should you take me right now? We're talking about cartoons. We're talking about reboots that people hate and think are awful. So should we take this seriously? Probably not deathly seriously. This isn't life or death. But it doesn't mean that there isn't some value to the discussion of why, as a culture, do we end up reviling something that should, in theory, be what we enjoy. It's the Teen Titans. It's the Powerpuff Girls. We're solving crimes before bedtime. Yes, I have all the songs memorized. Because all of the intro songs for all these shows are awesome. I've been listening to them in my office on repeat for this whole week for this practice. They're not serious. They're cartoons. They're meant for kids. But eternally, what we sell to kids, what we market to children, reflects what we want to see in a society. Inevitably, even if it is just meant to, oh God, please let the kid be quiet for 15 minutes so I can do the laundry, it still has to do something. We still have to engage on it in some level. It is not just about people being angry on the internet, because as I talked about 2 years ago, the internet is how we communicate now. Like it or not, the internet is our source of language as we understand it currently. Students keep showing up. I'm gonna be emotional. So is this just, though, about cranks on the internet? I found this when I was doing my research. Someone tried to get in a petition to get the Powerpuff Girls remake and Teen Titans Go canceled on change.org. Now, it's cut off on my picture there. 500 people signed this petition, so, you know, that doesn't mean anything. It's 500 people on the internet. That is nothing. But it does speak to the fact that someone thought this was a good idea to even start this in the first place. Because if you go to discussion boards, this kind of thing happens a lot. It's not just cranks on the internet saying, these ruined my childhood. This is something that makes articles in any kind of social nerd magazine, Polygon, Vox, and all of those do talk about these kinds of things, which means then eventually it gets picked up by CTV and CBC when they are bored and have nothing else to talk about. Luckily, our world, they got plenty to talk about these days. But then it reaches my 75-year-old dad. And then I get asked in turn, what's going on with these? It slowly spreads out. And when something happens on the internet these days, we have to have a little bit of awareness. And then also, we're putting our kids in front of these. So are they ruining our children, these cartoons? No more than they did when we were kids. Talk about that later. So it's not just cranks on the internet. What all of this, I think, comes down to is a bid for ownership of ideas. Because the problem with a reboot is it's not yours anymore, but you still want to own it because it was yours originally. So while you're wanting to share it, when it's not the one you understood, you're going to have an opinion because you want it to be the same. You want that ownership of the idea. You want to be with your friends playing with the action figures. It's hard to play with Teen Titan Go action figures in comparison to Teen Titans. We don't like change. Everyone who says they like change is a liar. And we particularly don't like it in our pop culture. Because in the 20th and 21st century, how much of our identity is in fact defined by our embracing of pop culture. I'm the Star Wars nerd. I'm the Star Trek nerd. Expand it out. You have strong opinions about Henry Cavill being replaced with a Hemsworth for Netflix, for The Witcher. Yep. We can talk about it later, because that's dropping next week. So we'll absolutely talk about that later. So let's get into our particular case studies that we're going to be talking about today, which include, first and foremost, the Powerpuff Girls. Now, if you don't know who the Powerpuff Girls are, they are made of sugar, spice, and everything nice. and Chemical X. We do not know what Chemical X is. We will never know what Chemical X is. But I made these cutie pies, so it can't be bad, right? This is our sweetie pie, the good girl. Because again, it's a cartoon. Everyone must be a stereotype. This is my personal hero. She makes spreadsheets for fun. I understand her so much. And of course, you gotta have the sassy one. Sweet, controlling, sassy. Those are your characters that you are allowed for girls in cartoons. We're not gonna talk about misogyny, but it's all about misogyny. We've got Blossom, Buttercup, and who's our third? Bubbles, that's right. I was looking for anyone because I just blanked on the name in my own presentation. I mean, I was just engaged in audience participation. It wasn't that I blanked there for a second. So, my mouse, where did you go? Okay. When the Powerpuff Girls reboot came out, it was disliked intensely. Now, we have a visual here. These are the original girls. These are the new girls. Can we even tell a difference? The bow is rounder.
Yeah, I draw, so
Yeah.
I can notice, but there's not a big difference.
No, that's right. In comparison to, say, our next topic, which is Teen Titans Go, Powerpuff Girls reboot didn't change a lot visually. It's still very kinetic, simple colors. You know, this girl's the blue one because she's all cute and bubbly. Bubbles, water, blue. Our girl who is driven with the spreadsheets got red for her. And our sassy one's got sour apple green. But yeah, original to the new, a little rounder, little hair puff up kind of thing. But our visuals don't change that much. So when it's rebooted, you can't say they colored it wrong. It's not dark and gritty. It's the characters look the same. The problem inherently was, though, it's new voice actors for the main characters. So if you're watching it with your kids, they sound wrong. And when something sounds wrong, you immediately get your back up, right? It doesn't sound like your childhood. It's not the language of the words, it's the language of sound in this one that bothers us. Another good example of this same phenomenon is, hey, do you like Kermit the Frog? Hey, do you like how he sounds now? But for a child growing up with the current Kermit the Frog, not our Jim Henson Kermit the Frog, he sounds like how Kermit the Frog should. To a child listening to more recent versions of it, Kermit sounds like Kermit. For all of us who remember Muppets Take Manhattan or watched those original Muppet Show reruns, we see the new Kermit and we're just like, no, it's wrong. It's not that the words themselves are wrong. It's just when something doesn't sound how we anticipate it sounding, we immediately freeze because we're not in control of it anymore. It's that wrong sounding Muppet. They look the same, near enough. The colors in the show the same. All the bad guys are the same. Nothing visually changes. But the minute orality changes, we lose something in it. Or we get mad it's not there. It's just a voice. Are you your voice? I mean, think of it this way. When you talk as I'm talking right now, this is what I sound like. I'm being recorded for reasons. I refuse to listen to it because me hearing my voice right now, as we know, versus hearing it on a recording, when you hear a voicemail you left. Exactly right. We hate it. That's not our true voice. So if this is something we hate internally, we're now seeing it writ externally in this cartoon. There's just that disconnect in it that immediately renders us suspicious of it, because that's not the true voice. That's not the real voice. So that's Powerpuff Girls. Now let's talk about Teen Titans. Love Teen Titans, and I love Teen Titans Go. Apparently, I'm evil if I say I like Teen Titans Go. There is no more reviled cartoon reboot than that of Teen Titans Go. Just look at our mighty heroes, all heroic and DC'd up with superpowers and hard angles. And weird little munchkin Muppets. They got squished. Somehow when we rebooted them, we compressed the files. If you go on Pinterest and just type in Teen Titans Go, you don't get fan art of Teen Titans Go. You get dozens and dozens of memes hating on Teen Titans. A lot of SpongeBob memes hating on Teen Titans Go is actually what happens. Because a future talk is how SpongeBob has become a language in and of itself. See you in 2 years for that conversation. The problem with Teen Titans Go is myriad. We're gonna have to be here for a while because it is obnoxious. If you've ever watched Teen Titans Go, it is loud and abrasive and confusing, particularly in comparison to the original Teen Titans, which was a serialized, goth, dark, gritty. We actually reversed the gritty reboot. It was originally kind of gritty, and then we sanded those edges down into something else entirely. So now we need to talk about the Waffles episode of Teen Titans Go. If you are not a fan of Teen Titans Go, one, please become a fan of Teen Titans Go, or don't after this talk, because you'll be like, no, that's not for me at all. There is one episode in Teen Titans Go that I think works great as an exemplar of all of Teen Titans Go, and it's called the Waffles episode, or just Waffles. In that episode, our two characters here only say the word waffles. That's it. The whole episode, all 15 minutes, these two characters just go, waffles? Waffles. Waffles. Waffles, waffles, waffles. Waffles? Waffles. For 15 minutes, that is all these two characters will say with a slight song break. I will not sing the song because I will not make you suffer like that. My husband right now is literally singing it. But the whole song is just waffles, 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 but to a better beat. And it drives the other characters crazy. They're like, why are you only saying it? Waffles. No, but can't you say anything else? Waffles. Even when they're captured by bad guys, those two characters just say, waffles, as they're being tortured. It's decided as so obnoxious that when the bad guy is trying to torture everyone into giving the codes, the other Teen Titans embrace it and just also say, waffles, until the bad guy just gives up out of sheer tiredness of it. You understand? You find the episode funny? Excellent. But what happens when those other characters finally embrace the waffle, our two waffle makers immediately go, you've ruined it, and they stop saying waffles. That's it. They're just like, well, you didn't understand, and you ruined it. And the game is done, and everyone speaks again. I think this episode speaks to the actual fundamental problem of Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go is speaking waffle. And for all of us who watched the original gritty, serialized, we are serious crime fighters, we are eternally, every episode we watch of Teen Titans Go, hearing waffles, 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 waffles. And then when we buy into it, we've ruined the game. Linguistically, the whole of that obnoxious language, even when it's not just saying waffles, waffles, is what we're dealing with watching this reboot. We are suffering through waffles again and again for 149 episodes. Yeah, it's long and it's obnoxious. Language becomes marked as other in this. The natural language in this episode becomes the wrong language. Waffles is language. And a good way to think of this is the buffalo. In English, the sentence, buffalo, 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 is a complete and grammatically correct sentence. You can actually look it up on Wikipedia, just type in the buffalo sentence, and grammatically speaking, that is a correct sentence. Buffalo, 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 because it means the animal, the city, and the verb to buffalo someone. So we are in Buffalo to Buffalo, a buffalo kind of thing. And it just grammatically can exist without all those other prepositions and nouns and stuff. It is correct. So when they are speaking waffles, 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 they aren't just doing it as a joke, even though they say it's a joke. They are actually building a language in that episode. Beast Boy and Cyborg understand each other when they are saying waffles. Us as the outsider doesn't understand it because we are not in that linguistic circuit. We exist outside that circuit because we're grown-ups, except for you. Hey, you little one there. I hope you get good cartoons when you grow up. We don't exist in the linguistics of Teen Titan Go anymore because we got old. And we don't understand the language, but that doesn't mean it's not an authentic language. They are doing it as a joke to drive everyone crazy. But within that, it is still a language that they actively understand. And in that, we see the representation of everything that we don't understand in this cartoon, because we are not in that linguistic circuit anymore. We were once, then we grew up. That was a bad call, but we did it. So it's a joke and it's actually a serious language at the same time, because all language is a joke and a serious language at the same time. Language isn't real. We make it up every single day. We just get mad when other people make it up first. That's it. Where this fits in, though, is here's a good picture of our original serious Teen Titans. Look how serious. They have their arms crossed. We know they mean serious business. And then we have our tiny squished compressed people. So it's the exact opposite of Powerpuff Girls, because Powerpuff Girls looked the same, sounded wrong. Now we have looks wrong, but it sounds the same. And that's what makes it worse, is because the cast, the voice cast of the original Teen Titans is the exact same voice cast of Teen Titans Go. It is all the same voice actors between these two shows. But you're rendered thinking that can't be right, because now they sound stupid. So it can't be, but it is the exact same voice. I just blew Miguel's mind. It is the same voice cast, which almost makes it worse than Powerpuff Girls, because Powerpuff Girls, they sound wrong. Here they sound right, but are saying the absolute wrong things. It's not, we need to save Gotham from the threat of insert villain of the week. Slade, usually. We must protect town from this evildoer, and we're going to use our powers and be sad that we have powers. And in Teen Titans, it's but I have tiny hands. Yep, there is a whole episode devoted to how tiny Robin's hands are. They save no one ever in Teen Titans Go. They cause more problems than they actually fix in that one versus here. Yeah.
Have the voice actors commented on the online issue of...
No, they don't care. They make money.
They don't care about the difference between the perception of the two different...
No, they haven't. I mean, there's been a few comments on like, hey, maybe it's just not for you. But they don't tend to comment. Voice actors comment less on these kinds of things than face actors, just because there is a certain amount of remoteness when you're a voice actor versus when you're a body person actor. That could have gone really bad, that sentence. But no, they haven't commented on it a lot other than it's just, hey, it's a different show. But that's just it. Teen Titans was unfinished. It ended on a cliffhanger when it ended. And every teenager, adult, child who was into that original Teen Titans keeps going, one day, maybe they will answer what happened in that cliffhanger for it. So when we got told there was a reboot, we all got excited because, oh, we're going to get an answer. Finally, we're going to find out what happened. And what happened was waffles, waffles, waffles. So we got left with an unfinished story. Humans don't like unfinished stories, but we'll take an unfinished story over a bad ending. Somehow Palpatine has returned. We will choose unfinished over sometimes what we get. It's very monkey's paw. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And oh, did we get it in Star Wars. But I'm liking how everyone in this room is just shaking their head in horror at Rise of the Skywalker right now. But Teen Titans is unfinished. So we had the expectation of both story and language that when we got told there was a reboot, we'd get our answers. We didn't. We had to face what happens when the serious becomes absurd. And the answer is we didn't like it. But on the other hand, hasn't that been what happened to language in this century? Language has gone from serious-ish to entirely absurd. We talk in emojis. We talk in GIFs. How many times if you text with someone, do you actually speak, or do you just send a series of little pictures on the internet that convey all of your meaning? Especially if you know the person well. I could have a whole conversation with my best friend, with my husband, with 0 words, just the correct GIF order. We do it to make each other laugh, to lighten the load. What does Teen Titans do but kind of speak to us in GIF almost? Because it's short, little, confusing snippets that we must encode language onto. But we don't have that dictionary. We don't have the lexicon of it. We just have to learn how to negotiate it. And some of us look at it and just say, nope, I'm not negotiating that. It's just stupid. Because it becomes a question of both the audience and the listener. Because who's the audience for Teen Titans Go? We want it to be us, because we remember our first one. But it's not us. We are not the intended audience for Teen Titans Go. That is the intended audience. The little boy. You, sorry I have to bring you into my conversation, but you loved Teen Titans Go when you were about 8. Obsessively. We watched all of the seasons. Again, I knew the Waffles episode long before this talk. Yes, sir.
Technically, we watched it on Netflix, and one of the seasons wasn't on it.
Yes. Thank you kindly, sir. Technically correct is the best sort of correct, as we all know. It's a question of who is this intended for? Why do we want to believe it is intended for us when we are not, in fact, the intended audience? And it's also a question of who's listening to it. What language are they developing from waffles, waffles, waffles? Ooh, I love your gloves. We don't watch TV right now, do we? We vaguely listen to it as we're scrolling on our phones. Who actually watches TV without multitasking anymore? Outlier. Valid. But a lot of us are multitasking, which we're all awful at it. But consistently, we listen to TV often these days more than we truly watch it. Because if we're in professions, we're not watching. We're watching. I'm awake as I watch my TV show. So we hear TV oddly more than we actually watch TV, and it is a watching medium. That means when we are left listening to something as it comes on, it'll sound weird. We don't have the language in us to understand it, but some people do. But because it's a reboot, we want it to be for us. Now, in this conversation, let's talk about arguably one of the most consistent pieces of media there has ever been in the era of television. Let's talk about Scooby-Doo, shall we? Everyone loves Scooby-Doo. If all else fails and you hated this talk, at least you're going to leave thinking, that was a great Scooby-Doo outfit she was wearing. Made it this week, instead of occasionally working on this. But I got it done in time. Jinkies and Zoinks, as I said, are not in the dictionary. This is true. What is also true is that Scooby Snack is. Scooby Snack is in the dictionary, but Jinkies and Zoinks are not. This is wrong, and I will be writing a letter to Merriam-Webster and the Oxford English Dictionary to complain about it. There's a few reasons for that. Beyond anything else, linguistically, we all love it. We love it when Velma says jinkies when a problem arises. How many of you actually say jinkies in real life? Yes, you do. Zoinks. How many of us actually say that in real life?
To be in a serious
Yes. No, it does not. Yes. But they do not grab at people linguistically the same way a lot of other language we pick up from TV shows does. Whereas Scooby Snack, thanks to actually Buffy the Vampire Slayer, kind of came into a bit more of the public lexicon. Beyond this, it got picked up by other shows, other iterations, other concepts, and we started to use it more as an encoded language. And so Scooby Snacks becomes just a regular phrase, gets itself into the dictionary, while Jinkies and Zoinks, because no one actually uses them outside talking about Scooby-Doo, get left in the dust. Everyone, start using Jinky and Zoinks more. Let's get it going into the world. It deserves it. But as we can see, Scooby-Doo started in the 60s, way back, so long ago. Not that long ago for some of us. 1969, we start our adventures of Scooby-Doo. It never lasts long, though. Every iteration of Scooby-Doo gets about 2 or 3 years, then it dies. Then it comes back a few years later. It is somehow both a continuation, a sequel, and a reboot all at the same time. Because this is just the TV shows. This isn't the 80 million movies that exist for Scooby-Doo, with my personal favorites being Scooby-Doo and the WWE. That's a personal favorite of mine, of the Scooby-Doo movies. Oh, Scooby-Doo and Kiss, the rock band. That's a great one. And then, of course, Scooby-Doo at Mystery Castle, Island, Lake, House, Carnival, Amusement Park, whichever you choose. So we have our shows and we have our million movies, and it's consistent. Of all of them, whether it's 1969 or 2018, Velma is going to say Jinkies. Zoinks will be said. Shaggy will be scared of everything. Scooby will say Ruh-roh. Fred will drive the car. I'm hating on Fred more than he deserves, but he also deserves it a little bit. The biggest change in the TV show consistently is, oh no, we have to get rid of his ascot, because ascots don't really work anymore. This is the biggest change. For the most part, until we hit Be Cool Scooby-Doo, they look like Mystery Incorporated. They look like our band of fools, except for when the ascot disappears in the 80s, because who wears an ascot anymore? But it came back because everyone was like, Fred without an ascot's just wrong. So there's some visual shift, but the iconic purple on Daphne, the orange of Velma, green of Shaggy, our characters are all color-coded, just kind of like our Powerpuff Girls. For different reasons, though. Green is not symbolizing aggression anymore. Green is symbolizing the natural herbal supplements that Shaggy enjoys. Natural herbal supplements. My child's in the room, so that's what he does. The internal language of Scooby-Doo remains consistent from 1969 to today. The language stays very similar, even though it crosses generations, crosses decades where language itself changes. They don't change that much. How they talk stays the same, and it becomes very othered in a certain way. They exist very outside time. Even when they get cell phones, you're kind of like, oh, them with cell phones is just wrong, because their vocal intonations, their words don't match the technology that they are using. That's why they still drive around, even in the 2010s, in a van that looks like it's from 1969. It's eternally groovy. It's not it. It exists out of time, out of place, as something else entirely. And what's added to this is, since we've talked about voice actors changing or not changing, this show's been on since 1969. Inherently, a voice cast is going to have to change if it's been around since 1969. And it has, but not as much as you might think. Frank Welker is still the voice. 1969 to today is still the voice of Scooby. Yeah, It is still the original voice. He's going to be playing that dog till he dies. And I mean, really, they'll just be able to, it's Scooby. You can recycle those lines and it could be Frank Welker even long after he passes. Actors retired. But when they retired, who took over the roles has actually been the same. Guy Delisle has been Daphne now for most of this century. Kate Miucci's been Velma for a while. Matthew Illard's been Shaggy and that. Like, when it changes, it doesn't change a lot. Kermit's on voice number 4. I know this breaks your heart as, you know, a leading Muppet expert. Oh, he's got to count how many changes it is. Yeah, it is 4. I listen to you. But once you get locked into the Scooby acting gig, you don't give it up. Because it's also consistent work, and voice acting is a difficult job to get hired. So if you get hired to be the voice of Daphne, you're not letting that go, because you know even if it's not running now, they'll make a movie every 18 months. A new show will be revived for a couple years. So you're going to make bank if they pick you to be a character. So the internal voices don't change a lot. We can get used to the new voice of Daphne, of Velma, because we get them for decades at a go. So there's vocal shift, but not much. There's visual shift, but not much. And I think the key why they work over across decades, why I loved it as a kid, why my kid loved it, why a future little baby there is going to love it in the future, is because they are not cool. They exist outside time, which means they can always be fun, but you don't have to worry about them matching anything. They exist outside time, outside culture. They are a culture of themselves, so inherently they can be enjoyed across generations because of that sort of separation from how we understand culture, how we understand cartoons. Scooby-Doo, the animation itself feels dated from 1969. If you watch the originals, it's the same 5 footsteps recycled for every episode. Whether they're in the carnival or the graveyard, magically Velma falls through that same hole in the wall because the animation is made for $1. But you can still watch them because they're still doing the exact same thing as the ones from the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's a set pattern. We're going to solve the mystery. We're going to be a little sassy as we do it. And again, capitalism was the evil all along. It was not the friend we made along the way. It's eternally fun, but it is never cool. Scooby-Doo is beloved, but it is never linguistically or visually actually cool, which is why it's a problem when we in fact get Be Cool Scooby-Doo. This is the first time Velma since came on to the scene, but this was the first time Scooby-Doo was not liked. Be Cool Scooby-Doo did not have the standard reaction of the Scooby-Doo audience. And I think that's for a few reasons. One, look at them. They have a different animation style. They're a lot closer to that Teen Titans Go. And not that they're compressed, but they're rounded. They don't have kind of the skinny, shaggy angles anymore. Everyone's got rounded chins instead of pointed. The eyeballs have gotten big. They are more cartoon now. They're not human. Because even when Ascot Boy is walking around, he still feels functionally not like a cartoon, but he feels human. And it took the tone and then took it to the extremes. Be Cool Scooby-Doo has all the same premise. We're going to solve it. The premise is, though, it's their last summer. They have finished high school. In the fall, they're going to go to college or university or whatever Shaggy and Scooby are going to do. I'm going to guess they do not have the grades to attend. There'll be an upgrading, I think, for a while. So they're on their last adventures. Finite time for adventuring. And they look weird. They sound the same, but they've been rendered even more comedic in this one. When they're solving the crimes, it is now more absurd. It's not just a little goofy, it extends it. And that can be rendered in that visual, but more importantly, it's in the dialogue. Excuse me, I needed some water. This is a lot of talking. You cough that cough. Oh, good. I'm going to. Sorry, had to check the time. I'm doing great. It renders them more extreme. Just look at their reactions in this. They're always scared in Scooby-Doo, particularly Shaggy and Scooby, but in this one, it's writ large, all over their faces, and it's written more in the language itself, too. We're not just getting jinkies and zoinks, we're getting bigger conversations in this one. The language itself stays the same, but the tonality has shifted enough that it renders it just off, just enough. It's that cup on the wrong shelf in the cupboard, where you're like, it's the right cupboard, but no, it should be on this side. That's what the language in this one does. And it does something else. Daphne in Be Cool Scooby-Doo is different. She has an interiority. Because what do you know about Daphne, really? From all our decades of Scooby-Doo, what do we know about Daphne as a person? Clueless. Cool? What about her family? Yeah, that's about it, right? Like, think about everything we know about all of these characters. Daphne's the one we might know the least about from a character perspective. In Be Cool Scooby-Doo, all of the language shifts, and she has almost a third more dialogue in Be Cool Scooby-Doo than she actually does in most of the other previous series. So now we've rendered language in a different voice entirely, the unheard voice previously. That's weird. And what they did when they gave her a voice was make her a freak. And I say that with all the love in my heart. Be Cool Scooby-Doo, Daphne is my favorite Daphne because she is insane. The opening episode of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, she has made puppets of all of the characters, and as they're solving the mysteries, is going around talking to puppet versions of all of the other characters, and the puppets wear puppets of all the other characters on their little puppet hands. Each episode, Daphne says something completely unhinged. She has a fight with dolphins, and they know what they did. In the episode where they travel to Ireland, she picks up the worst god-awful Irish accent that has ever happened in TV, ever. Each episode, she just drops these insane facts. We know she's rich from previous. Now we actually see that wealth. And it's, yeah, oh man, my mom's going to send me an angry email about us breaking another castle. And you're just like, well, I don't actually know how many castles we own. But we own this trademark. We are giving a voice to a character that has previously been relatively unvoiced. And that makes it weird. The quiet is now being said aloud. We can't impose a reading on her anymore. She now has interiority and ideas and all of that. And then tied to that interiority, tied to that understanding of her as a character, is this is also the first time they are getting close. They don't get all the way there. They are self-aware in this one enough to understand at times vocally they are out of time. Not out of time as in running out of time to solve the mystery, but literally existing out of time as we understand it. We don't like it. Certain characters are allowed to break the fourth wall, but not these ones. Because Scooby-Doo belongs to us. If they become aware that they might exist as something in and of themselves, what does that do for us? It can't exist permanently for us if they become aware of who they are and what they're thinking and what they're doing. If they gain interiority, they've escaped the zoo. The tiger is out. We can't grasp them when they move on, when they let go. And there's something we all want to hold on to desperately. So, let's talk about language. What all of these conversations about these three cartoons goes to fundamentally is they didn't make it for you, and that's okay. This is actually a clip from the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans movie, because they got so self-aware of this hatred enough that they actually made a whole movie presented and released on DVD of the Teen Titans fighting the Teen Titans Go characters, which if you want to talk meta, I don't know how we get more meta than that. And in the audience, at their big brawl, they close in on a guy holding up a Teen Titans Go sign saying, "You ruined my childhood." It's pretty funny, right? They were self-aware enough of what they had wrought to make fun of it. So what do we do with this information? Because they didn't make it for us. Language moves. I promise this is not about the Great Vowel Shift. Because if you know me, you know I never stop talking about the Great Vowel Shift, but I promise this is not about that. If you don't know what it is, ask me later during the Q&A. I will never shut up about it ever. But it is absolutely about the Great Vowel Shift. Because why it matters is language moves. We know this. The language that was cool when we were kids is not the same slang that the kids are saying now. What was cool to our parents, ugh, cringe, as the modern parlance says. I try to keep up with the lingo. I am awful at it because I'm old. We presume language is fixed, even though we know it changes, even though we understand that our kids don't talk the same way we do, that our students have a different language than us as instructors have. We understand that, but we still presume a certain amount of fixed language. Our language has to be the right language. So that's the one I learned. It's the one I embraced. It's the one I understand. So it's not that I'm wrong. You're wrong. Your language is the weird one. Mine's the right one. How we actually think is based on the language we have. This is why if English is not your first language, most of your thoughts probably roll through your brain in whatever the language of growing up was. How we think is defined by our language in and of itself. And this is why it's actually quite hard for us to change our language, because then we have to change our whole thinking patterns entirely. This is why old people struggle to gather and understand new slang, is because it literally, our brains are not hardwired to understand language outside of ours. I love this line from McWhorter, fascinating linguist. Highly recommend his work. The reason we struggle with it is because we assume talking is writing. So it has to sound formal. It has to have that energy. But when we're writing, we're actually writing speech, because words out of the mouth came before words got written down on the page. But we assume that when we speak, we are speaking writing, but we're not. And particularly this is seen in cartoons where there is nothing written on the page. All we have is the language of speech. And as each new cartoon comes, as each new reboot comes, we are stuck with a language we don't understand because we haven't seen it written for us. We only hear it. And we have the understanding that hearing a language is not how we're supposed to embrace it. We're supposed to read it. And now we're stuck just listening to it. And we create this huge disconnect between those languages as we conceive them. This is why it can be difficult for us when we watch cartoons meant for kids. And what's interesting about it is the flip side. Toddlers are speaking with Australian accents right now in North America because they are all obsessed with Bluey, because Bluey slaps. But there have actually been studies that toddlers right now are saying brekkie and rubbish bin and actually having an Australian accent in North America because they are so obsessed with Bluey, a cartoon, that it is literally reforming language in their mouth. That's insane and kind of cool. But the minute they go to school and all of the syntax and language around them says, mum instead of mummy, they switch to mom. The Australian accent does fade the minute they're kind of actually in pre-K, ECDP. They pick up the language around them. But if at home they're hearing mom and dad's voice, but they're hearing the 80 million voices in Bluey, Bluey's winning out for a little while. But we don't, as adults watching Bluey, or whatever cartoon it is, we don't pick up that language. So our minds can't, but kids do. They adapt that language, or it's language that's written because it already existed in kids' mouths and kids' minds. What comes first? The chicken or the egg? The kid or the cartoon? It is difficult for us to see this, particularly when it is a reboot. We don't hate reboots because they just did them bad. We hate them because they are not our language. Because we are rendered outside the circuit of that language. But it's a reboot, so it's supposed to be our language. So it is very difficult for us to understand why it doesn't sound like it. It's ours. So that goes back to that question of ownership. Who does it belong to? Because if it's a reboot, it must belong to us, because it was ours first. It was our language, our ideas, our possibility first. So it should still sound the same, but it isn't. A reboot is a new language, not a re-language. Yeah, I wrote that this morning, and I'm particularly proud of it. It's new language, not re-language. A reboot is, in fact, something different. Syntax, language, squished characters. It's not for us. But in an increasingly elastic world when it comes to culture and media, we still want to claim ownership over those kinds of things. I teach regularly in anime t-shirts. Luffy's for me. He's been around for 30 years. I remember him from when I was a kid. So my kid and I can have the same taste on that one. And that language is fine. That goes into Japanese versus English, which is a whole other talk. That'll be my talk in 4 years. Generational divides are difficult for us to understand at the best of times. What our students say makes no sense to us, let alone sometimes what kids say. The example currently is 6-7 as slang going around for the kids. Yep, the old lady is going to mention it. Don't worry, I'm not actually talking about it. I will say if you do not understand what 6-7 means, Language Jones on YouTube has an excellent video trying to break it down. So if you have heard it and are very confused, I do recommend. Yes, sir.
I'm a kid and I don't even understand. My friends are running around talking about. Literally, they'll say something like, "Oh, you steal a brain rot to get a cup of Keyano assassinito or something," and I just look at them thinking thoughts of, what the heck are you talking about?
Malcolm, your parents have 5 literature degrees. You were saying aforementioned when you were 3. Your linguistic language is the statistical outlier for grade 7.
I know what steal a brain rot means. I've watched my kids play robots.
Yeah. Oh my God. The change linguistically of what brain rot has meant over the last 20 years, we'll talk later. Because I would love to talk about how the phrase brain rot has actually changed meaning over 3 generations. Because where brain rot started and where it is currently, so different. And that's fascinating. I like language. What we need to fundamentally understand when we are talking about cartoons, particularly reboots, and why they are hated, is not because of just what they look like or the plot line or anything. It is literally coming down to the language itself, because it doesn't read true to us. It is not our language. That doesn't mean it's a false language. It's still true. It's just maybe not true for us anymore. And that's okay. Because kids don't understand what we say either. It doesn't have to be true for everyone for it to be true in and of itself. And most importantly, if you watched these shows, your childhood was ruined already. You don't get to complain about other language if you were raised on happy, happy, joy, joy. I'm sorry. Anytime we complain about the language in cartoons, I bid you to remember what we watched. So, thank you very much for listening to me talk about language. This was just the first in our renewed lecture series, and I can tell you that we have an absolutely fantastic docket for you this year. At the end of November, the last Friday in November, we have our wonderful and esteemed historian, Kevin Rogers, talking about boondoggle. Is that a good word for the Avro Arrow? The boondoggle that was the Avro Arrow and all of the conspiracy theories and confusion and all the mess that was. And we'll try to sort it out. In January, our incredible librarian, Melanie Forrest, is going to talk us through mis and disinformation. The whole world is lying to you. Everyone, always lying to you, particularly on the internet. How do you navigate a space? How do you find the truth in a world that increasingly wants you to not find the truth? Melanie's going to help you figure that out. In February, Dr. Marie Jones is going to tell you about how awesome local dirt is. I'm sorry, I'm excited. Albie's excited. You're going to tell us how cool soil is. And that's fantastic. Because if we don't have that 1 inch of topsoil, the world is doomed. So we need to know what's going on with our dirt. Aside from it's just fun to play with. And then in March, it will be my esteemed pleasure that Dr. Ryan Cox will talk about how he didn't die. He will be talking about how you define yourself, how identity is created after trauma. So we have an incredible docket of a wide variety of lectures coming up this year, so I hope you will attend all of them. And now, if you have any questions about cartoons and language, I suppose you could ask me. I might have an answer. And if not, there's still a few cookies left, and you should enjoy your Scooby snacks. Yes? Oh, you wore, sorry, I just realized now you're wearing a Scooby-Doo shirt.
Yes.
Ah!
I like to wear thematic shirts.
Love it.
So this kind of been percolating from the beginning because you've talked a lot about this new thing wasn't made for you. Yeah, the old thing was, that's okay. So I'm wondering kind of what your thoughts are on the timing of it all, because you're looking at Powerpuff Girls and only had the one reboot.
Yes.
And it was relatively short period of time between the two.
Yeah.
Same thing with Teen Titans Go, is
Yeah.
an even shorter time period between the two. Then you look at Scooby-Doo, and to a certain extent, Scooby-Doo was never for anyone.
No.
Unless you were a kid in 1969. So someone like me, for example, going in and watching the show when I was a kid, I always knew this was made for decades ago. And so now this new thing is equally as not for me, but also still for me because I can still enjoy every decade's worth. So I was wondering, does that tie in a little bit to the overall language of it, the overall how people view it, or?
I get to use no, you're awesome, and I get to use my husband's favorite phrase. Scooby-Doo is always already.
Okay.
Both present and absent in culture. Scooby-Doo forget Teen Titans, forget Powerpuff Girls. In North American pop culture, Scooby-Doo is truly timeless. It exists above and beyond. Even if you are not a cartoon watcher, you have some fundamental awareness of Scooby-Doo because there's the 80 million shows, TV shows, toys, from my first slide, Lego, live action movies that we're just going to ignore that they exist. True, and he was so good in that they did give him the voice of Shaggy after that. Oh my God, we can talk later about those live action movies.
So how does that?
Yeah.
So in terms of like the translating of looking at when is a reboot good because the language allows for it, and when is a reboot bad? Does the timelessness of it?
I have to
lend to that?
now. I have to quote LL Cool J. Don't call it a comeback, they were always here. Yeah, they've never actually, even though the shows ended, if we go back to my slide, we see the times, but just because it ended, it never went off the air ever. Because cartoon reruns are cheap to pick up for Saturday morning. So those 1969 to 1971 episodes have been airing on TV through about 1990s. You could still see some of those original runs, and then particularly like What's New Scooby-Doo also stayed on the air forever. Even if the show only lasted a few things, you just need 44 episodes to make it for rerun status. That's why so many Disney cartoons end after 44 episodes, like Recess and a whole bunch of the others end after 44 episodes because that is all you need to go into syndication so that you're Monday through Friday, either at that 7 a.m. slot or the 3 p.m. slot. So Scooby-Doo, in fact, for these last 80 million years has always been on TV. So even if it was your parents' Scooby-Doo or kids' Scooby-Doo, it's always already present in your life. So by that nature, it means that its language, its timelessness, and its otherness is always present. So that's why we can kind of always exist in a Scooby-Doo world, because we all live in a Scooby-Doo world. Don't own land. They'll come for you.
So my take on Scooby-Doo is, so you say capitalism, right? Critique of capitalism, but it's also a critique of woo and critique of the supernatural. Like none of that crap exists, and at the end they always find, oh yeah, it's just a property developer, right? And that's been through the whole thing. I don't know if it's the same in that.
No, in the Boo Cool Scooby-Doo, it is always, correction. So here's the thing with Scooby-Doo. 99% of the time, it is always a real estate developer, a brother who wants to own it's never supernatural. But there is one Scooby-Doo movie that has the implication that maybe there's a little something. And every season has one episode where, even though we know it's the land developer, there's just a curtain that sways a little too long, kind of, as they leave. You know, there's always just one episode that hints at maybe, yeah, maybe next time.
I just think that it's good because the science always wins, reality always wins.
Yeah.
You know, flat earthers, or vaxxers, or people who believe in Bigfoot, all of those are never win.
Misinformation, disinformation. No, honestly, Scooby-Doo engages in critical thinking skills because.
Did they start with some sort of grant or something? Because you know, if you were really creative, you could pitch this Scooby-Doo as an educational resource.
Comms 2 is getting it now. Yes, sir.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I'm thinking back because I was a child. So I do remember watching the original episodes. We hated the second episode, and it may be language, but for us it was scrappy.
Now that's a whole separate thing entirely. And yeah, if we have to discuss Scrappy-Doo, my whole argument becomes a house of cards. Yeah, it is, but it is the cousin Oliver. Buffy fans, it's Dawn. It's Scrappy-Doo. So in theory, it's Poochie from Simpsons reference. It's the let's bring in the young sassy thing to relate to the kids, and kids are, it's not an authentic voice, is it? Whenever they bring in that young, cool, hip outsider, you watch it and are just like, this is what an adult thinks a young, cool, hip outsider sounds like. It's like, how we do, you fellow kids, you? But it's not, it's meant to be a representation of your voice, but it's not actually authentic to your voice as a kid when they bring in that character, or our little kid actors are getting puberty up, so, you know, we got to bring another cutie in because we're getting to the gross stage on these ones. And then you're just like, So yeah, it's not about the language, but it is absolutely about the language, because Scrappy-Doo is meant to appeal to a young audience, and young people are just like, he's an idiot. Because it's not authentic voice to how kids perceive their own voices, to the language they actually use.
And I'm going to also say, I was in the original Scooby-Doo movie, so I take offense to that.
Any other questions? Oh, because I have a few students here today, I'm just going to point out references in proper APA styling. My thanks to my good friend Melanie, who knew I was a little overwhelmed with all my work and helped me. Why, in fact, I used our library resources to achieve my goals on my project. 2 pages. And students, you do not see that I have Wikipedia. as a reference. Yeah, I'm doing pop culture. And Wikipedia is very useful for knowing how many episodes of TV there is. Wikipedia, occasionally not bad. Yeah, exactly. So we're fine. So again, thank you so much for coming to listen to me ramble about cartoons. I do not know if Kevin will dress thematically.
No. I brought a missile last time, and I got weird looks at the college.
So please think about cartoons in all new ways and think about how we use language around us. Thank you so much for coming.